So Charlie probably remembers this when me and the three girls used to live downtown Floresville in the Rock House. There used to be this creepy two-story house across the street, and it was for sale. And one time during the day, I walked over there, and the door was unlocked. So I started walking around in this big, creepy, empty house, but the sun was up. It was in the middle of the day. So later that night, I left the door unlocked and I went back home. Charlie and them had a sleepover, and Kayla and Mara was probably there. And I started telling them ghost stories. And then I said, you know what? That house across the street is haunted. Why don't we go there and look for some ghosts in that house? And they're like, no, hell no, 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 hell no. And of course, Charlie said, I'm down. So we started walking over there, and we were like, Mama Duck and the little chicklets, and we were all holding on to each other, already scared to death. And so we walk across the street, and we go through the yard, we go to the front door, and I'm like, now this thing's full of ghosts. Y'all need to watch out. There's ghosts everywhere, and they're already like holding each other and hugging each other, and one girl's crying. And so I open the front door, and we step into the front area. And I looked up, and I swear to God, there was a ghost standing right there in front of me. And I screamed to the top of my lungs. And I pushed all the girls down and jumped over the one that was crying and started running back to the house. And by the time I hit the end of the yard, I realized, oh, wait a minute, there was a mirror there. That was my reflection that I saw. That wasn't a ghost. But the girls came tearing across the yard, screaming bloody murder, and we all ran into the house. And so I said, I told you there was ghosts there. I told you there was ghosts over there, So it took forever to calm everybody down. But that's kind of like the snake and the rope story, right? So one of the things that when a guru or a lama or a teacher will tell people that snake and the rope story to their advanced students, they'll say, meditate on and ponder on, where did the snake go? Like when you realize that it was just a rope, where did the snake go? And with that ghost story, where did the ghost go?
I just want to say that, well, my dad left us. We were all running back, and I fell down in the yard of the haunted house. And my older sister yelled at me, "Get up right now!" I was like crying, running for my life.
I left you, Charlie. I'm sorry I left you. I was afraid.
You know what? It was my fault for even saying I'm down to go with you there. I should have known at 6 years old not to.
There's another famous story about when they used to travel around with the movie projectors, the first movie projectors. It was like something that nobody had ever seen before, and what it was just a bunch of pictures going real fast. Well, it's still that probably, but they used to take this movie projector into these old west towns, and for 5 cents, they would turn out the lights and they would show you these moving pictures. And they said one time in the Old West, they went into this bar and they hung curtains or things over the windows to black out the bar. And the guy collected 5 cents from everybody, and he turned on this moving picture machine. And what it was on the screen against the wall was this Indian war party, like the Comanches on horses riding over this hill to go to war. And several cowboys jumped up with their six guns and they started shooting the wall. And they had to like rip down the curtains and turn off the machine and everything to prove to them that it wasn't real, that it was just moving pictures. But for a second there, they're jumping up, drawing their six guns and stuff. And so that's how our mind will confuse us. And what Buddhism says is it's our own projections of our own ignorance onto the world. But what do you think about that statement that I said? What happened to the snake when it became a rope? What happened to the ghost when it became me? What happened to the Native Americans on horseback when they turned the camera off? Where did they go? What could that mean? Why would a guru or somebody ask what happened to the snake? And I ask because I partially don't understand it either.
Well, when you were telling that story about the saloon and the moving pictures thing,
Yeah.
I was reminded about the story that Plato tells about we're all sitting in a cave
Mm-hmm.
and the light is actually behind us and we're watching the shadows of reality on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so we think that's real. And so, yeah, I don't know that I understand it either, but that was what I thought of. And I thought, oh, well, if you just realize, like, that's just projections, or if you realize that's just thoughts in your head, and, I don't know, that maybe that you become awakened and you get up and, I don't know, and just, yeah, I'll stop talking.
No, that's good. Thank you.
That's true, Shane. I feel like the snake is just a thought manifested from your own mind, and so I think they want you to realize what Kylie says is label it as a thought and come back to meditation. You can just label it, that's a fear of mine, or that's a negative thought that I have, but it wasn't true, and then just push it back.
Yeah. And also, like, something, like, in what we're saying is, like, how does the snake or the rope or the ghost or the projection, how does it change you?
Can you elaborate on that?
I don't know.
But let's look at it with how does it change you? Like, you realized that it was a fear and that there are things that seem scary that, it's just a rope. Like, it's your own fear, but when you realize it's a rope, that fear gets dissolved into knowledge that, when I was just scaring myself. It was just myself in the mirror. It was just, like, how silly is that? Maybe next time when you can use that to grow and be like, wait a minute, let's not knee-jerk this. We'll just, maybe it's not what it seems. Take a breath. Maybe it's not what it seems. And use that as an item for growth. So where it goes, maybe it's like a stair step. That's your next, that's a transition from a fear-based thinking into kind of realizing you're making whatever you're seeing.
Yeah.
I think in the idea of perception, if you see a snake, it only scares you if you're afraid of snakes. If you see a goat, it's only because you're scared of a ghost that you have that reaction. So, the item is a metaphor for your internal fears more than it is a literal thing in front of you. What's the difference between a rope and a snake? Well, to somebody that's not scared of snakes, one is useful and the other one's an animal. It doesn't scare them any more or less. So where do those things go? They go back they go back into your fears. They go back into your perception of what fear is. People are afraid of spiders, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. That's what I think when I hear that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense to me, but
what Christy said helped me clarify what I was thinking, because I grew up on a farm and with barn and with grain, and we had mice and we had snakes and we had all of these things, and I was never afraid of snakes because they were always in the barn, and so it is that fear. And I thought, if people had treated the Native Americans properly, and they would have never had a war party after them. You know what I'm saying? And so, there's a fear of that because, it's created by what you're doing. And the same thing with snakes is, they're so useful. Even the poisonous ones. There's all kinds of, And so it's like a respect. It's a treating something, as its existence, as that it has every right to be here too, instead of you have to fear it and squash it and kill it and power over it in some way.
That's so true. They are so useful. And something that I always tell my friends, because I literally own a snake, I am her master. And so I always tell them, why are you afraid of her? You're literally a giant to her. You could step on her and kill her if you wanted to. We could literally eat her. We could cook her. We're smart enough to do that. She doesn't know how to do that. She relies on me for a mouse. And so if you think about it, the snake in the garden is an internalized fear, but you are bigger than that fear. It's just a small snake that's on the ground that you're way bigger than. The bigger picture is so much bigger than that little tiny rope.
Yeah, our fears are based on stories we've been told more than they ever are personal experience.
I like that, I think Christy kind of said something that everybody said something to help me understand it better, but Christy said the snake dissolves into the knowledge that is just a projection of your fear. And I like that. And all of us said the same thing in a similar way, that ghost, that snake, those pictures are just projections of what we fear.
And sadly, some people could fear the rope.
Yep, that's true. That is true. Let's see what else I put down here. So I wrote down that, the world has little meaning except for the meaning that we place on it, And we all know that is true. And, one thing that keeps bringing me back to Buddhism, even though I study a lot of stuff, is Buddhism doesn't necessarily tell me what to believe. And there's no theology that I have to swallow, It always puts the power back in my own hand. In other words, if I think that the world is a terrible place, I'm not waiting for Jesus to come back with a Bible and a shotgun and fix it. Or I'm not waiting for a deity to come down from heaven and fix it. If anybody's going to fix it, it's going to be me. And if I'm going to change my perception of it, it has to start between my own ears, And so the power is always in the palm of my own hand. And that's what I really respect about Buddhism. And, whereas another philosophy might say, here's the book and this is what you have to believe. Gays are bad, or this group is bad, or anybody that doesn't believe this book is bad, or, if it wasn't for all the sinners, the world would be a paradise. You know, the blame is always off on somebody else, and everything that you need to know is in this book. Well, Buddhism isn't like that. It's always saying that the world is your perception of it. And even though Buddha said that the world is suffering, the world is samsara, there's just enough suffering to lead you to seek enlightenment, or there's enough thorns in your saddle blanket to make you want to stop and change your saddle blanket, you know? There's enough suffering to make you want to change your perception and work on yourself, and to not only create a better world, but to create a better mind to see that world, you know? And so everything that we see and do in this world, we're attributing meaning to it, you know? We talked about me and Diane walking the dogs and seeing the palm trees and the sunset, and we might as well have been in Waikiki or Hawaii or something like that, because it was such a beautiful experience. But I've told y'all before that me and Diane actually went to South Padre Island one time, and I didn't have a good time at all because my mind was disturbed. I was struggling with drinking at the time, and all I could see is everybody else having fun and drinking, and me being the only one not drinking. And I was like, why even be at this beach if I can't drink? Why even be here with all these people partying and have a good time when I can't have a good time? My mind was, so I was at a beautiful place with a beautiful beach and beautiful ocean, but I wasn't tranquil. But the other day, I'm standing in front of the Highland Oaks Apartments in Floresville, Texas. And it's a beautiful, luxurious place to be. I couldn't have been happier because my mind was happy, And I think I struggle with that day in and day out. Every single day. I have to make that choice. What meaning am I attributing to this? Good or bad? Because the best person in the world could be president. Beto could have won, or I like Julian Castro and those guys. Michelle Obama or anybody could be president. It could be a beautiful, every politician could be in the right place, and the economy could be booming, and everything could be perfect in the world. And everybody could have equality, and everybody could be treated equally, and there could be police reform, and everything could be perfect. But if my own mind is still troubled, I'll never find happiness. I will never be satisfied. I will always think about self-harm or drinking or suicide or any of these things, because my own mind is projecting on the world, And so while I totally agree that we need all of those things, and we need good politicians, and we need reform, we need equality, we need all that stuff, in order to help make those changes, you kind of have to be right yourself. Because if you go into that with hatred and confusion and ignorance, and Buddha actually said, before you make all the, how do you put it? Before you go out and make all things straight, first straighten yourself. So before you go out and try to straighten out the world, straighten out yourself first, so that you can have a better understanding of what you need to do to help make the world a better place. Anybody have any thoughts about that? Or anything come up for you while I'm blabbing on and on and on?
About that there's always going to be suffering in the world. I feel like when something bad happens, you're like, oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? But that shit is happening to everyone. Bad things just happened, and that's just life, and that's okay. I've been really thinking about that, and I'm coming to terms that it's okay if bad things happen. Like, they all happen for a reason. That's okay. And I also struggle with like feeling guilty about things that I do. But then I saw a kind of funny quote, and it was like, if we don't sin, then what did Jesus die for? So it's like, I'm just doing what he for, you know, like he did for me.
That's truly trying to put things in the best light possible.
Yeah, well, like, you know, I'm a Christian and you're Buddhist, so it's like I hold guilt for being sinful when a Buddhist wouldn't, because they don't have a God to please, I guess.
Yeah.
Because karma's going to come back to you.
Right.
So it's just something that.
So you feel like your sin, you know, unfortunately you don't want to sin, you don't want to mess up, but it justifies why Jesus had to be nailed to the cross. In other words, it wasn't for no reason. It didn't serve any it did not serve a purpose for Jesus to die. Jesus died for a purpose.
Yeah.
And so you shouldn't
better, like, he knew that I was going to mess up. He knew I was going to cuss and I was going to do these things, and he still did that for me so that I can do those things without punishment, without having to feel that guilt, you know, even though you naturally feel it. It's like,
yeah,
just kind of a reassurance type thing.
I think, Charlie, you see things like in a different way, and sometimes the way you say things, people don't. I don't fully understand sometimes. Like when you say, "If I don't sin, Jesus didn't die for nothing, so I gotta smoke this weed, I gotta smoke this crack," you know.
Put it into a jokingly manner to make it sound more lively.
Yeah, and then sometimes you say, "Who cares? We're all gonna die anyway." And that could sound, both of those things could sound very pessimistic, but I know you have a heart of gold, and what you mean is, don't worry about a bunch of shit because, you know, we're gonna die. So don't obsess about every little thing, because look at the bigger picture. You know, death is.
Like, will ruin your short time here on Earth.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I just want to clarify some of those things because sometimes I had a hard time understanding where you were coming from, but I totally get it now.
I think all of my little quotes and things are all just showing me that nothing is truly that deep. Like, you don't have to take everything so seriously, because no matter what, we're forgiven. We're forgiven, or we're gonna keep going until we get it right. You know, it's just all about the process and about making sure that you're happy at every moment, and that you're enjoying yourself more than you are stressing about your car payment and getting a bigger house and fighting with your friend, you know?
Learning along the way. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any thoughts on any of this stuff?
Yeah, that just brought me back to where, like, why we got away this weekend. We've been gone since, like, Thursday. Because I honestly just gave up on the rest of the week and was just like, I'm out. Like, I'm out. I need to be out. I knew I needed to reset, and being in the house and going to work and being in the house and going into work, you know, the same thing over and over and over. Like, I had gotten into a serious rut, and then it was like news articles and watching this, and I come home, Josh's like, "Did you see this?" I'm like, "No, but did you see this?" You know, like, news articles, like, what the hell is happening? And it was just a huge spiral, and it got to a point where, like, I couldn't see anything else. Like, I couldn't see anything else. It was to a point was like, I have to get out of here. I'm fucking driving to Utah, and we're going to the Zion National Park. That's it. Like, I'm fucking driving to Utah. That's it. It was like emergency had to. I needed a change of perspective, and I knew it, inside, and I actually haven't been this bad in a long time, because one of us will usually pull the other out of it. But for whatever reason, it's been really hard to gain perspective these last few weeks. So like, my body knew it, you know, my spirit knew it. had to get out, and I feel like I've been able to center and been able to come back and kind of been able to have that filter again with just that slight change. We didn't go anywhere. It went from driving to Utah to driving 12 miles, and everything's fine. Everything's just great.
Yeah, sometimes that's all you need. A change of scenery.
I forgot where I was going with that. Had a point, but then it got lost.
I'm really glad that you both were able to see that you were going down the negative spiral and what you needed to do to get out of it. That's really awesome. That's like you went into your wellness toolbox and got a change of scenery. I think that's so awesome that you can see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of have to do that sometimes. And sometimes it takes literally removing yourself from your normal everyday environment to just be able to take a breath, shut down the news, shut down the electronics, get back to your partner or your family or your friends or just yourself, to be able to remember that not everything is about what we're seeing on the news or what we're feeling personally about anything. And I personally, there's little things that I've had to do, so when the kids call us, this is a perspective thing. I instantly feel fear, instantly. When the phone rings and it's one of the kids, I don't want to answer it because I'm afraid that, and this doesn't make any sense because there have been very rare occasions where it's actually been something bad, where there's been a car accident or there's been an arrest but I always.
And those were all Charlie.
They were all Charlie. But it is. I think for me, it's because that's one of my biggest fears is that something's going to happen to our kids. So because for me, one of my children is the farthest away, I literally had to change the ringtone for him so that when he called, it was a happy ringtone that made me feel kind of like, it made me laugh, and then it instantly kind of triggers this turnaround before I pick the phone up, and it's just something small. So sometimes I've learned that I just have to do something small, and sometimes it's a little bigger, like getting away, or I know for Kylie, sometimes when he's there, he needs to just pack his shit up and take the dogs, and he goes to a park and goes for a hike, and it makes the difference for him. For me, sometimes it's just sitting down and crocheting, or not looking at my phone for a while, because you get bombarded with all the bad stuff. And I've actually found a channel that's something, I don't know, it's called Something for Good, and it shows little clips of things that are happening in the world, in the things that are going on now, like in these marches and stuff. It's showing the good stuff that's happening on top of the negative stuff that we're being fed. So it's not all negative, but it's hard when you're being bombarded on all sides by all negative to remember that that's not all there is.
Yeah.
And I've had it too with my morning alarm. Like when my alarm would go off with the regular iPhone ringtone, I would instantly feel mad. Like I have to wake out at 5:30, and so then I decided to put on the happiest tone that I could find, and so now when I wake up, it makes me a little happier than it did before. But I kind of did that this morning because I felt like I was gonna have a depressive episode, and I woke up and I was just cried twice for no reason. So I'm like, what can I do to not feel this way? So I ended up doing my makeup, and I made coffee, and I cleaned the fridge, the kitchen, the bathroom, and my room. and got on Woke House and I ate some celery. So I'm feeling better, and I'm glad that I was able to think of, instead of just like laying in bed and just being sad, I was like, you know what makes me happy?
Thank you guys. So who hasn't shared yet? George, do you have anything, or Yoshaylee? Any thoughts?
I guess I was just thinking, like, you're asking, like, where the snake goes or whatever. Um, um, I think that, like, the answer that was given was, it was always a part of you, you know?
Yeah.
And once you understood what it was, like, you didn't fear it. Like, and I think that that sense of perception is something that maybe people don't always realize in the moment, um, and how much control we could have over how we react over things. As an example, I think Charlie really, today she could have chosen, to decide to have not a great day, and instead she put her best foot forward and decided to do things that would be better for her. And I think that's a little bit of understanding about the snake and understanding that it's a part of you, and trying to do the best we can with it.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Absolutely.
No one's crying. Hi. Charlie. So I think that honestly I've been like choosing like little things here and there that I've been understanding, but like one thing that you were talking about earlier was just kind of like you were talking about how whenever you're having a conversation with someone and like it's like they were like it's almost like they kind of like do something or say something that kind of rubs you out the wrong way, and then you start talking to them like how they were just talking to you, and then it's like back and forth. And like the other day I was just having a conversation with somebody kind of like that, and then it got to a point where I was just like, okay, I feel like the best thing to do here is just be like understanding and like accepting of the situation and of like what's like actually happening, like what is happening, and like I don't know if that's like, I mean, it is, but like I feel like maybe when it comes to like the whole snake and the rope thing, like the understanding and just like accepting that like is probably no, it could be like it is you, already is you, and you just become accepted of that. And like, so I mean, that's two things that I've just been like picking up on, is just understanding and accepting that. So
thank you, Yoshaylee. One of the things that A Course in Miracles says to meditate on, if somebody is disagreeing with you or you're seeing something that you don't like, you say, I don't have to perceive this as an attack. And so I've been able to think my way out of things, or think a lot clearer when somebody is kind of being aggressive towards me, or not seeing my point of view or my perspective, or being argumentative. If I can catch myself and say, I don't have to see this as an attack, I can take a step back and see a bigger perspective here. Or I don't have to take this thing so personally. I can kind of look at the bigger picture, So, all right.
I just want to say that the other day, my boyfriend said something to me kind of rude when we were arguing, and instead of reacting, I just looked at him and I said, is that what you really wanted to say? And he said, no, I wanted to say this. And so I thought that was like really good thing that I want to start practicing, is like, how did you mean that? Or is that what you wanted to say? Instead of reacting, like breaking it down to see like what they actually meant, so we're not arguing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know when I get combative, it's because I feel threatened or insecure, or got my feelings hurt, And so I'm being very defensive because I feel hurt inside. And so I'm not doing it out of meanness. I'm not doing it because I want to hurt the other person. I'm doing it because I feel hurt. And if I could explain that point to the person, then it would make that conversation a lot easier than just coming off as a jerk or an a-hole all the time. All right, so before we move on, I just want to make sure, Josh, is Christy still there? Was she?
Yeah, she's here.
Were you able to were you able to finish your thought a second ago?
Oh no, but I did. I was just thinking that, Charlie, you are incredible. You're an incredible young lady, and if I had the insight that you had at your age, I would probably have a very different life.
Stop, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. It's true, and you should be very proud of yourself because I mean, I know I am. I'm not even your mom. I'm super proud of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I got it from these two.
And I feel the same way about Yoshayli too, because she's constantly writing things down and making notes for herself and reading books. I noticed she went and got a book. I thought she was going to read something out of that book to us. It might have been her journal, but yeah, just maybe this is the woke generation. Maybe it'll spread, and their generation will fix all the stuff that we're just discovering right now, right?
We're trying, Yoshayli.
Woke house.
Woke house. Woke house.
This is exactly why I feel like there's so much hope for the future, because in like hanging out with people so much younger than me, like watching Mandy and Dominic consciously parent their children, like it's so amazing. And I remember my kid was in daycare. I was busting my ass. I had 3 jobs. I was a single mom. Like I wasn't even home. Like it was crazy. But then I know, like me and Kylie were better than our parents. And I mean, like and then y'all instead of focusing on the negative things, because I remember my brother and I had a conversation that we could parent our children very differently than our parents parented us. And then I see like that evolving the next level. So like, even though we did better than our parents, I see Mandy and Dominic doing better than we did. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a direction that you go. Instead of perpetuating all the shit, you improve and use it as stepping stones and learn something. And I love watching y'all, because the younger generation like that I'm around has it going on. Like their children are going to be more evolved, that next generation, and they're going to take a step up, from things, instead of like living in this past that's hurtful and violent and hateful. And I was going to say something too, Charlie. It's really like I gleaned is when you are really in a relationship, whether that's with your family or your friends or a loved one or spouse or significant other or whatever you want to call it, and you really believe that that person is there for your best good, you will understand like language is so imperfect, and they're really saying it the best that they can. If you know in your heart that that person loves you and wants the best for you, so you don't ever be in a relationship, whether you're kin to that person or not, that you don't have that feeling for. And then when things like that get said, your response is so perfect. It said, is that what you meant to say? Yeah, could you say that better? Because like 9 times out of 10, if I sit there for a long period of time, I could think of a better way to say things than I did at the beginning.
All the time, I'll say something and I'm like, I didn't mean it like that. That's something that I've been really trying to work on, is communicating better, because I'm such a direct person that when I say, like, did you wash the dishes? It sounds mean, but I'm just asking, you know? So Felix and I have literally sat down and researched better ways to communicate and then practiced what was on the article. And so it's like, if you want to have a successful relationship, you have to fucking work hard.
And this is true because, I mean, you have Kylie and Diane now, but I never had a successful relationship to look at.
So
My
true.
daughter doesn't have a successful relationship for her to look at. Like, yeah, you have to learn it on your own.
And I think too, the younger generation, I was saying the other day, when our generation gets into office and Congress and everything like that, it's gonna be so much better than it is now. And I think all of that is because we grew up with social media and the internet and Google. So we don't just have word of mouth type thing, like your parents taught you that and that's what you think. And you only know differently if you leave that town and talk to other people. But we have access and have always had access since we were teenagers to other belief systems and just all these resources. So I just feel like, I mean, look at us, we're literally on Zoom online right now.
Well, and that's what I think travel made a difference in my life. Like in how I was like, I got to go somewhere and see somebody do something different because there was something about that little podunk town that I knew wasn't right.
It's so true. But now we don't even have to.
So, guys, let's go ahead and do the chanting aspect and close the service out. And then if y'all want to stick around and talk for a little bit, I'd be happy to do that.
We gotta go. We gotta check out. We love you guys.
All right, Christy, bye. See you later.
Thank you.
All right. Contemplation of the 10 perfecting qualities. May I be generous and helpful. May I be pure, virtuous, and well-disciplined. May I not be selfish. May I be strenuous, energetic, and persevering. May I be patient. May I be able to bear and forbear the wrongs of others. May I be honest and truthful. May I be firm and resolute. May I be kind, compassionate, and friendly. May I be humble, calm, quiet, unruffled, and serene. Discourse on loving kindness. Just as a mother would protect her only child even at her own life's risk, so let everyone cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Let our hearts of boundless love pervade the whole world, so that all beings without exception might be happy. Closing dedication of merit. If I have attained any merit by the result of this practice, may it be accredited to all beings everywhere. May they find the source of suffering and extinguish it. May they find the source of happiness and increase it. May all beings dwell in ultimate unalloyed nibbana. We'll bow to the shrine 3 times. We'll bow to our Sangha brothers and sisters with smiles of gratitude. Closing bell. Old house.
I love y'all.
I love you too. We'll see you next Saturday.